The Felixstowe Flyer, Felixstowe, Walton, Trimleys and the surrounding villages monthly magazine. Available for download on PCs or iPad as an app direct to traders online. The Felixstowe Flyer sponsors Felixstowe Matters.
Welcome to Felixstowe Matters, and on this bright and sunny day, although we had a drop of rain overnight, I think everything's going to be good for today. And today we have a special guest in today. I think this is going to be very interesting, and I've not seen a production, but we have here Suzanne Hawkes. And Suzanne, you are a playwright.
That's right.
And you own a company called Black and White Productions.
Correct,
right?
Yes.
Good. Okay, right. Let's find out about Black and White Productions for the next few minutes, shall we? What, first of all, is Black and White Productions?
Well, we are a community theatre company. We're semi-professional. I use local theatre practitioners. So they're people that have either had some professional training or very many years of experience, both on the stage or backstage in the technical side. Yeah. And we present semi-professional productions and tour them around the county, basically.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's pick up on something you said there. You said you use practitioners. Now, practitioner to me is a doctor.
it's a technical word in my world to say that it's people who not only act but people who do backstage technical stuff as well, so lighting and sound and things like that.
So you've wrapped it all up in one description.
That's right.
Yeah,
yes.
So they are actors and technical. You got your sound guys.
Yes, that's right. Yes. And I have a small core company of people that I use, and then I get other people in as and when I need them, depending on what I've written.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, you just said written there. You actually write these plays, yeah?
Yes, I write them.
You sit down and you write.
Yes, I do, yes. I'm first and foremost a playwright, so I write the plays. I do a lot of research before I write them. Mm-hmm. I write them, direct them, produce them, and usually have a small part in them as well.
And why do you have a part as well? Because if you're a producer and a director...
I know it sounds a lot, and it sounds like I'm a bit, egotistical, but it's not that at all. When I first started writing plays, I didn't act in them. However, I found that it was easier for me to deal with the whole process by being part of the acting team.
Yeah.
So I still need my finger on the pulse even during the production.
Right, so when you're a producer and a director, that's fine whilst you're rehearsing shows and getting things just as you want. But when your actually show starts, you've lost control, haven't you?
That's right, and I hate losing control. It's like having a baby of your own, and it's very much your baby, and you want it to be how you want it to be. And I just found it was easier to be part of the acting company and backstage. I don't have a starring role in any of them.
No.
I usually write myself a small part that is usually a comedy part, because I am good at the comedy sort of character parts, and that's the part I usually write myself. So it's not very big, but I'm in it sort of on and off, but it keeps you keyed in. That's right.
So you know exactly where it's going, because I know doing this stuff we do here, sometimes my mind drifts.
Yes.
And I think, oh God, yeah.
Well, it also gives me a legitimate reason to be backstage.
Yeah.
So the actors aren't thinking, for goodness sake, push off, because you're the director, go and do something else. So it gives me a legitimate reason to be there and to be, amongst, and being a director as well, it can be quite a lonely experience, and there can be a sort of distance between you and the actors. But if you're part of the acting company as well, and all the best people have done this, Shakespeare, of course, probably did a bit of acting in his own plays, and certainly he wrote for his own company, and a lot of people have done this, and I can see why they do it, and it's just so much easier.
You said semi-professional. which is meaning you either make a profit or you don't. So is it a non-profit?
Yes, I get funding. I try and get funding for each production I do, and then we do. I either give expenses to the actors and technicians, or we do profit share, depending on how much we've made. But basically, we all get something out of it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that's good when you do get something out of it. But I'm sure most of the people do it for love of the theatre as well.
Well, I think so. I mean, I don't think anybody acts with me and is in the company for the money, and certainly you don't do it for the money that you can make out of it.
No.
However, I always think it is quite nice if you've done a really good professional job to be able to get something out of it, even if it is just expenses, because we do tour around and the cost of petrol and one thing and another.
So, Suzanne, where did you get inspiration for this from? You know, what made you get up one morning and said, I'm going to do this myself? Where did you get the inspiration?
Well, I started off as a poet, to be honest.
Oh.
When I wrote poetry from about the age of 5. I've always written, and I used to write short stories as well. But I sort of discovered that you can't make a lot of money out of poetry, and it's quite hard a field to get into. So I decided to try and concentrate on maybe becoming a professional writer through short stories, and that was my original plan. But I had my 3 sons quite early on, just after I left school. And with having them all little at home, it was quite difficult. So I joined an amateur dramatic company. I'd been interested in drama at school, but not got very involved. And discovered that I quite liked being on the stage, which I'd never done before. But they were going in for a one-act festival, and they'd got no one-act play to do. They couldn't find anything they liked. So they said to me, well, you do a bit of writing, have a go, write us something. And I thought, well, I've never written a play before, but I will have a go, because I'm always willing to try anything on the writing front. So I wrote a 10-minute piece, and I thoroughly enjoyed writing it, and I enjoyed the whole experience of, because writing is a very lonely thing, but when you're writing a play, it's like writing in 2 dimensions, but then getting it up in 3 dimensions. Because then you're working with the actors, and they bring something else to it. And I just loved this whole experience, and the play went down extremely well. And then I wrote a couple of other ones, and they won festivals.
Wow!
So I thought, hey, maybe this is my genre. And the other great thing about plays is, unlike novels, you can spend 3 years writing a novel, and maybe only your best friend will read it.
Yes.
Whereas with a play, within 6 months, you can have it written, produced, and up and running, and any number of people can come and see it. And I like that aspect of it as well.
Oh, brilliant. Can you remember your first play?
I can't remember the first 10-minute one. I've got to say it was some sort of odd little mystery type thing, but I can't remember that. I can remember the first full-length play I did. I mean, I did a number of one-act plays, one of which actually was about that security corps guy who's just been brought back to book. When the robbery first happened, I wrote a one-act play about imagining he'd gone off to Spain and he was getting fed up with it, and his wife was getting fed up with being in Spain and all this sort of thing, and I wrote a one-act play about that. So there was a number of those, and then my first full-length play was about an old soldier from the First World War called Company of Strangers, and he was thinking back about something that happened to him in the trenches, and how he actually was a coward, had left his best friend in the trenches to die, and then gone home and married the best friend's girlfriend.
Oh my God.
And he was thinking, it was all sort of flashback, but it was good. It was good. I used projections for the first time of World War I footage and things like this. And I did it in the West End Theatre that got burnt down, the Herman de Stern. And it went down extremely well. It was done by Phaedos. They did a very good job with it. But I then thought to myself, I really want to move on from this.
Have you ever reproduced any of your older plays, like the first ones you did? Have you ever brought them back and titivated them up a bit? And
a couple of. I usually move on. A couple of the one-act ones I've done again. Trinity Methodist players did one of my one-act plays. So I sort of revised it a bit and then they put it on.
Yeah.
But mainly, I haven't. Mainly, I've moved on. I hope that eventually, when I become extremely famous, people will look at my back catalogue and start doing them again. You never know.
Have you ever been to Edinburgh?
Oh, yes. I try and go every year. I'm not going this year.
You actually put production on?
But I haven't. No, I haven't.
You just go to...
I have gone to have a look at it to get inspiration. I find the Edinburgh Festival brilliant for that. It has so much going on, and what I do is do a long weekend, and I see 14 or 15 plays in a weekend. By that time, you're sort of played out, basically. But I always find something that inspires me. Last year, when I went to the Edinburgh Festival, the play that I enjoyed the most inspired me in the way that I wrote my most recent play.
Oh, fantastic.
So...
Yeah, so you're learning all the time.
Yes, I am, and I love to pick up... I mean, all writers are magpies, basically, and we all pick up bits and pieces. It's not plagiarism, it's just ideas, and then you reformulate those ideas into your own methods and way that you do things. But this particular play was about Bonnie Prince Charlie. And the way that they did it with a cast of 3...
Oh, yeah.
And just specific scenes out of his life, very minimal set, was how I felt I wanted to write about Thomas Wolsey, which is what my latest play is about. So that has been quite a small cast play, and it's not obviously the same as that, but it was along similar lines.
Yeah. Mentioning Thomas Wolsey there, obviously he's local to Ipswich.
Yes.
All your plays and the productions you put on, you pick a famous person and you do a small play or a play about that person's life or something that he did in a particular time, and then put that production on in the area in which he lived.
Yes.
Is that basically what you do?
It is, yes.
So you're touring players, really?
That's right, yes. They're all inspired by local history, local people or local events. And then I do have this passion for taking theatre out into the community rather than just staying in a theatre for a week. I never do that. So I tend to take it round village halls. Thomas Wolsey, I toured round churches that had, in the main, links with his story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I went to Airwarton on the Shotley Peninsula, where Anne Boleyn's heart is meant to be buried. I went to Framlingham, where Henry Fitzroy, who was going to be King Henry's heir, is buried. So they've all, and I went to St Peter's on the waterfront in Ipswich, which was actually Wolsey's chapel.
Oh, right, yeah.
So all of these places had links with the story, and it was all great atmosphere, but it's taking it out into the community, and that's what I like to do.
So what sort of length of runs do you do? You know, do you stay in... Do you do many productions? Once you start running?
With Wolsey, I've done more. Well, I'm going to have done more than I've ever done before. What I tend to do is do an initial run in a week, usually in May, and then I leave it a month and then do another week's run. Because I find that the first week you get people coming to see it and then they start talking about it. And then you have people say, "Oh, was it on last week? I missed it. Oh dear." And then I say to them, "Well, you haven't missed it because it's on next month." You see? So that way you tend to build up an audience from that perspective.
So and people that saw it the first time
start talking about it. I mean, as long as it's good. But I have found that happens. And this time round, I've been sold out for practically every performance.
Have you?
So that means that it has worked, that people have seen it, they've talked about it, they've told people about it. Obviously, I do a lot of publicity as well, because you have to really work hard on the publicity side. And for the second week's run, I worked in with the new Wolsey, so it was part of their open season. So that always helps as well, because I get their box office facilities and their backing.
That's fantastic. If you want to advertise or you want to promote your products too, our website, we have an events diary which is very, very up to date. The lady that looks after that for us is always scouring for information. If you was to just email her,
right, yes,
you will be put into our events diary, and that will also go to the radio events diary, because Felixstowe Radio and us are under the same umbrella now, and people can see when you're coming around.
Right, excellent.
That's no problem. Now, famous people. Now, Felixstowe has got loads of famous people. Famous people in Felixstowe is
oh yes, they're coming out of our ears, aren't they?
We are. You know, we go right from Wallace Simpson.
Yes.
You know, obviously she was probably the most famous.
Yes,
person.
she's on my list.
Excuse me. Also, there was an Empress of Russia.
Yes, that's right. Yes. I mentioned her in my suffragette play.
Did you? Right,
yes.
yeah. Well, she lived at the top of Bent Hill.
Yes, that's right.
White
Yes.
House,
Yeah.
and she actually had, I think it was 3 or 4 sons. I think it was 3 sons she had, and they lived in Cliff Road along the top. She bought them a house up there, and they had a house of their own up on Cliff Road. So so we've had the Empress of Russia, we've got Wallace Simpson, and then just going down from that, we've had I can't think of his name now, famous writer.
Henry Williamson.
Yeah, I think it was. And all sorts of
He
people.
wrote Tarka the Otter.
That's it, that's the one.
He's just had a plaque unveiled.
Yeah, he has, last week.
In the museum.
In the museum, yeah, absolutely.
My friend Peter Wayne was the sponsor for that, which is how I know about it, yes.
Yeah, well, there's, I think there's about 18 of those plaques up at the moment.
Yes, that's right, yes.
Around the place.
Yeah.
You know, Lawrence of Arabia was here.
Yeah.
There's a plaque to him somewhere or other.
Yes.
And even down to, I went to the plaque unveiling, this one down at the Spa, Percy Edwards.
Oh yes,
Percy
that's
Edwards
right. Yes,
is the bird impersonator.
Yes.
You know, so Felixstowe is
rich in people.
It is,
and I do intend to tackle that at some point.
Yeah.
I've tended to try and do people with a wider appeal further afield, and I also, when I'm picking someone, have one eye on where I might get funding or sponsorship for that. Because, as I say, we sort of work project by project. We always share out the profits or use the money for expenses. Yeah. So there's no money in the kitty as such. We're not building up big reserves. So I have to be careful and look for sponsorship and funding for each one I do. Yeah. So I've always got that in mind when I'm picking a subject.
Are your subjects always famous people, or would you do a production such as like we have down here, Felixstowe Ferry, which is what they call Old Felixstowe, like a fisherman's tale?
Oh yes,
or,
I mean that.
You could pick a fisherman's tale or something like that, you know.
Yes.
Because I know you actually did Bordsey, didn't you?
I've done
radar.
That's right. Yes, I did the development of radar at Bordsey and Orford Ness, and I actually. Not only had famous people in the play, like the scientists and Dowding and Churchill, but I had some ordinary people as well. So it was their stories too.
I heard the operators of the telephone.
That's right, yes, and the WAFs and the old boy that did the poaching, you know, and this sort of thing.
That's right.
You know, and I always try and use ordinary people as well as the famous people, and sort of interlink them.
So did you put the show on at Bordsey at all?
Yes, I did. Yes, it went on.
People actually live in Bordsey, isn't it?
Very few, but I put it on at Bordsey Manor because
you
that
went
was
to the Manor, yeah?
Yes, it's quite hard to get into the Manor, and not many people manage it.
No, they don't. You're quite right.
But I managed to. We did 2 performances in the Manor because that's obviously where the scientists were based.
That's where they were based, yeah.
And both performances were sold out. So I think we could have done more nights there, really. But then I did it at Landguard Fort as well, and did a promenade performance, which is the first time I've done that, which means taking the audience with me.
You took the audience around the fort?
That's right.
I was going to say, were you in the middle and all the audience was around the top?
No. Well, I have this thing about doing anything in the open air. I always feel personally that I've got enough to deal with. I'm not an open air person myself, and I cannot deal with the elements.
Right,
I just can't deal with it.
No good going to the Mimac Theatre.
No.
You've been there?
I have.
I thought you
But I know my limitations, so I can't deal with that. So therefore, I didn't want to do it in the open courtyard. I had to do it in the rooms in the fort. And the rooms aren't really big enough to have a whole production in one of the rooms. And I was inspired by a production called When Soldiers Sleep, which I'd seen a couple of years before. Very good production about some of the history of the fort. And they'd done that. They'd taken people around the rooms. And then, going back to the Edinburgh Festival, I'd seen a brilliant production of Our Country's Good.
Yeah.
Which was done in cellars under a pub.
Oh, right.
And they took us, the audience, round the various cellars to do this production. And I just thought, yes, combine the two in my head, this is the way I want to do it. So it was very experimental, and my poor cast had to work out in a day how we were going to do it, where they were going to have their costumes for changing, because they were all doing more than one part, which rooms we were using. I had it all on little cards. I just handed out the cards and said, right, these are the scenes we're doing, these are the scenes you're in, go and sort out where your costumes are going to be. And we just walked it round. We didn't even have a chance to rehearse it in situ, the whole thing. We just walked it through.
So how many in the audience were you taking around?
Well, I got 50. I had 50 a night.
50 people squashed into those little rooms?
And some of them, I had some chairs, so some people sat, some people stood around the walls. But it worked. It worked really, really well. And everybody seemed happy to do it.
Well, yes, I'm sure they did, because it's different, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yes.
I went to the theatre on Saturday night down here at the Spa, because I think people ought to use our Spa, but I went to a very good show down there. But your shows wouldn't be really for a 900-seat theatre, would it?
I mean, that is the problem with Felixstowe, and something that I often bang on about, so I will mention it. The fact that everywhere I go, the smallest village you can name, they've got a community centre, an arts and community centre, which has got a small hall and stage for intimate performances. Felixstowe has not got this. The Spa, for all its attributes, was built for a different time, and there is no way you can put on an intimate play in a 900-seat theatre. It just doesn't work. Apart from the expense, it just doesn't work. Because the most you're going to get for a play is 100, 120 people.
Is it?
That's the most you're going to get to come and see a play.
What's the length of your plays?
Well, they're usually 2 hours.
2 hours?
I try and make sure they don't...
Break in the middle,
yes. I try and make sure I don't go over them. I spent 3 months working with Menagerie Theatre at the Junction in Cambridge. And the big thing I learnt from them was editing.
Right.
Because it's quite difficult to begin with. I do loads and loads of research, obviously, because it's local history, and you have all this information, and you're desperate to impart all this information to people.
Absolutely.
But you have to realise that people's concentration spans and ability to take stuff in is limited. It's obvious it's limited. It's limited for me. I don't want to sit through more than 2 hours of stuff.
No,
so I have learnt to edit. With Wolsey, because it is obviously a big subject, I've got a very comprehensive programme, so that if people want to know more about his life that I haven't included in the play, they can read the programme, they can go and look up things.
Oh, fantastic. You don't do the whole lifespan, you just pick a particular...
I focus in. So with Wolsey, what I've done with that is I do it from the point of view of George Cavendish, who was his servant and his biographer. So it's from his point of view, and what I've done is do it in scenes that, in between the scenes, are a number of years. But I've done an early scene with his father, the next scene he's grown up and he's coming back from college. The next scene he's already Cardinal and Chancellor. So I've done it like that.
So we can learn things as well.
Yes, and everybody who's ever come to see anything of mine all say that they learn so much. My, I suppose, tagline for Black and White Productions is education through entertainment. And that's what I like to do. I like to write plays that inform people. They get to know stuff, but they get to know stuff by enjoying watching the play. Yes. I'm not lecturing to them, I hope. I'm not banging them over the head with information. But I think if you watch a drama, a good drama, and the characters come to life, you do learn things about it. I was talking to my sister the other day and saying, did she know about some character that lived in Felixstowe? And she said, no, you haven't written a play about it yet, have you? So I think, you know, and because people haven't got the time these days and aren't used to reading long books and stuff, you know, I feel I do all that for them and then present it in an accessible fashion.
In a way that keeps people away.
Yes, and I think that history is so important, local history is so important.
Yeah.
You know.
So what venues have you used in Felix? Have you been to the Orwell Hotel?
Yes.
They've got a stage.
I use the Orwell Hotel regularly, actually, because I do something in the autumn called Harry's Bar.
Oh, right, yes.
And this is a sort of drama cabaret evening, whereby I have people who are living and dead, people like Oscar Wilde, Wendy Cope, and we do poetry and prose, and there's a drama thread going through the whole evening, and there's also music, live music, and it's a whole sort of compact evening of entertainment, but using literary characters.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
And I do it in the Orwell Hotel, because that's such a brilliant venue for it.
If people want to get hold of you and see what you do you have a website?
Yes. It's blackandwhiteproductions.org.uk.
blackandwhiteproductions.org.uk. Get in there, have a look, and they can email you as well?
Yes. I'm hawks.blackandwhiteproductions@gmail.com.
Okay. Right.
And can I just say Thomas Wolsey is on again in September?
You can say you wish, yeah.
I'm doing a third run of it in September, between the 5th and the 8th of September. The dates will be on my website and also up around the town on posters and stuff.
Do you have a video? Do you have someone video your performance?
Yes, I usually...
You go on YouTube, do you?
I have had DVDs done. They haven't been good enough to go on YouTube yet, but well, some of them are. I might put some clips on, but I always think that clips of plays are a bit difficult because you need the context, really, don't you?
Yeah, you really need the whole shebang, don't you?
Yes, and it's
otherwise it's just a little news item.
That's right. Yes, that's right. So I wanted my youngest son is in film, and he's just started working for a film studio, and I'm hoping that he will get to a stage where he can edit down some clips for me so I can put clips onto YouTube with comments over the top to promote it.
Fantastic. Are you looking for other people? If anyone watches this and think, oh, I would like to have a go at that, are you always looking for people to help?
Well, I'm always interested in speaking to people. I tend not to take people on unless I've actually seen them perform myself. Because that's just the way I work. But if they are interested in working with me and they're in something and they want me to go and see it, then I'd be quite happy to go and see what they're doing. And I tend to go, that's why I do reviews for the paper and the One Suffolk website as well. And I see an awful lot of productions so that I can have a look and see who's about, and I take note of people if I think, you know, they could be useful at some stage.
Yes.
I might not need them for this next production, but you never know. You know, so I always have in my head a few people that I would like.
So when's your next show? What show are you doing next?
Well, I'm doing Thomas Wolsey again. It'll be in Felixstowe on the 7th of September at St Mary's in Walton.
St Mary's in Walton?
Yes.
Fantastic.
So look out for that, and then there'll be a Harry's Bar at the end of November at the Orwell Hotel.
All right, thank you very much then. Thank you very much for coming in. Thank you everyone for watching, and you may see this again at 12 o'clock, and you can watch it again at 5 o'clock. And then tomorrow you will be able to pull it back from our website, which is felixstowetv.co.uk. So thank you everyone, and thank you Suzanne, goodbye.
The Felixstowe Flyer, Felixstowe, Walton, Trimleys and the surrounding villages monthly magazine. Available for download on PCs or iPad as an app direct to traders online. The Felixstowe Flyer sponsors Felixstowe Matters.